Tonight's episode of Voices of Indy is brought to you by the Hoosier Original Music Association, also known as HUMAC. And HUMAC and Visit Bloomington present the Songwriters Summer Series. This week they're featuring Liv LaFleur, Carrie Cambridge, and Josh Gillespie live at Sleeper's Bar, Tuesday, June 25th at 7 p.m. This event is brought to you by WFHB, Visit Bloomington, and the Hoosier Original Music Association. And welcome back to Voices of Indy. I'm very excited this week, guys. My guests are Limestone Nomad, and there will be a familiar face. There will be a couple of new faces for those of you who are familiar with the show. And I'm very excited to have these guys on because it's been a couple of weeks. It's been months since we've been been off and on trying to get you guys on the show, and we finally were able to nail it down. Josh Jr. Huey, Sam McGuire, and Ty, I don't know your last name.
Connolly.
Ty Connolly. All right. See, there, it'll then eventually show up at the bottom of the screen. But Josh Jr. Huey, you are the founder of Limestone Nomad.
Co-founder.
All right. Who is your other Is Sam. Your... Okay. Yeah. All right. I didn't know that.
He's being extra sweet right now. Don't trust him.
It's like a Sour Patch Kid, but reverse. Sweet first and then sour. Sweet first and then sour. So.
Yes. Well, thank you all for being on the show this week. It truly is a pleasure to have you guys on and to continue expanding the impact of Voices of Indy into Bloomington and to other parts of the state. Because you guys play in Indy, but just because we're Voices of Indy doesn't mean we're focusing just on Indy. So thank you for being on the show. And tell us a little bit about yourself for those who may not be familiar with Limestone Nomad. And where you guys I get the limestone part, that's pretty obvious, but the nomad, let's get the story behind the name.
You want me to do that?
You can do your part and I'll do my part.
Okay, so all right, so Limestone Nomad was found 3 years ago at this point. Consisted of Sam and I originally. What happened was Sam popped into to Hoppy Wobble's pub, which is where I've been playing music at for years. And I was like, "Who is this dude bringing his banjo, asking to play on my show? This is really invasive." And I was like, "This dude's weird. This dude's super weird." And then eventually, I was like, "All right, this dude's pretty cool. He's weird. I'm weird too." So, and then we started practicing in my old house in my garage. And then we were just like, "Well, let's start playing shows together." And then the name comes from Sean at Hoppy Wobbles, who had a few drinks, let's say, in an evening, and messaged me at 3:30 a.m. and say, "This is the band name you should go with, Limestone Nomad." And so Limestone Nomad was created by Sean at Hoppy Wobbles.
Sean's a great guy.
Sean's great. And so that happened, right? The name happened. But the name actually has some origins. So obviously we're from southern Indiana. That's where the limestone comes from. But honestly, Limestone Nomad is two phrases for two people. So the limestone represents a hardworking class, corporate America kind of thing, which is kind of my vibe, being the manager. Mm-hmm. And the nomad represents more of a free-spirited drifter, so to speak, which represents Sam. That's the description of the name.
That would, drifter, free-spirited, that is definitely Sam. I mean, I think that is perfect.
And then, so we did that, and we ended up playing with Ariana, who's not here. She lives in Huntsville, Alabama. She just had surgery recently on her gallbladder. Ariana Shepard. And so
she used to be here, though.
She moved back, but we're doing tours in Alabama as well.
That's awesome.
And we're going back a second time. But basically, Ariana played several gigs, joined the band, and then moved, but she's still in the band. And then recently this year in January, we had Ty Conley join the band, and since January, and it's been fantastic working with him as a trio, and then sometimes a 4-piece when we get Ari to come up and when we can afford to pay her and stuff. So,
and she plays percussion.
Yeah, she plays a bowron, an Irish drum.
Nice.
Yeah. Which a lot of people don't realize. The the drum is big enough that she's able to have tone control and actually do
Really?
solos and different interpretations.
No
that more
way.
of a bass player would do.
It's like filling a bass player and a percussion instrument at the same time. It's fantastic.
It's wonderful.
That is
Fantastic. And she's
fantastic.
really on point. She keeps us direct and in line.
And helps me define offbeats, because it's always fun to play with offbeats, but it's also very dangerous without somebody setting a standard stone there
Correct,
at the
yes.
beginning of the turn.
Yeah.
And it can get wild, but when we have a frame drum around, everything gets easier. It
Yeah.
just feels right.
No, that's fantastic. Ty, how did you get involved in this band?
Well, I was just, I've been playing music a long time, and I'm a 6-string guitar player, and was playing around town at open mics. And after the restrictions lifted after the pandemic, I kind of came out into the world, a little raw, and and I ran into Josh at an open mic, and we kind of said hello to each other and touched base, and then and then I received a banjo as a Christmas gift from my family.
This past year?
A year ago last Christmas, so about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And I kind of fiddled around with it for 6 months or so, and then I finally got to where I was like, well, I'm going to take this out and play. And I started taking the banjo out to play, and I started getting really positive feedback from people, even though I really didn't know how to play the banjo yet. So so that gave me cause to keep playing it. And then Josh had booked a few shows, and there were some conflicts with Sam and his other band, Malingo, and Sam was playing banjo with Josh, and a couple of mutual friends of ours suggested to Josh, hey, if you're looking for somebody to fill in for Sam, you should give Ty a call.
Yeah.
And he did. So I learned some material, and Josh and I went and drove a couple hours through a snowstorm and played a gig up in Logansport, and it was just really great. It was our first real gig together, and it was just really a lot of fun. And then we kept playing, and we're just having such a good time. And then Sam said, well, why don't I just play some mandolin, and that's just kind of what where it developed is all of a sudden
Now we have this full string band.
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
And I will say that Ty is being really humble. He learned 2 hours worth of material in a month.
No way.
Which is fantastic.
Whoa. Seriously. That's incredible, Ty.
Well, I mean, it like I said, I've been playing music a long time, so even though I'm sort of green on the banjo and kind of coming to it fresh, I still understand a lot. I understand how songs are structured, how chords in the key, and I had a big head start in that regard. But Josh was gracious enough to kind of deal with me finding my way on the banjo a little bit in those early shows. I was kind of I was kind of white knuckling it there for a while. I knew the material, I knew the changes, but being confident on a new instrument was a whole nother thing. So.
Which is the thing we try to bring into Limestone a lot, just allowing people room for growth. Because there's so many bands you end up in where you don't get to do that thing you've been trying to do this whole time since you picked up the instrument. You ain't getting to make your sound. So, we've found a lot of the time working with newer musicians or musicians that are just learning stuff, we can find ways in there, and we can go ahead and give them a couple things, and they pay us back in eightfold.
Wow.
Within a week, because, we might teach one little lick that they knew somewhere else, like Ty, all the licks he picked off, we probably ended up running towards banjo quick.
Something I had learned from a very successful musician in the band 53 Thieves. I actually booked them a local tour, but Caleb was writing a book, and he sent me a book, and I read it several months ago, and part of that book is have people that want to be part of your team.
Yeah.
So if I don't have someone that wants to be part of my team, then you don't have to be part of the team. But if you're going to step up and say, I want to do this, I want, then I'm going to give you room for that, right?
Yeah.
I am a manager. I have to wrangle the band.
Sure, yeah.
But in the same regard, it's you show your worth, you prove your worth. If you want to do it and you want to prove that you like this and you're enjoying and having fun, which is kind of the main mission. Obviously, it's a business as well, but I try to be as open-minded as I can going into it, knowing it's not just my project. It is I would be the front man, of course, and the person who drives it more than anybody else. But at the same regard, I want to create an open, safe space where everybody has room to grow. Exactly what Sam's saying on that content.
Well,
so.
it kind of is. You are truly living up to the name Limestone Nomad. I mean, Sam came into this band playing banjo. Now he's playing mandolin, which is, I mean, the first time I met you, you were playing banjo for Malengo, and I knew you did do mandolin on the side. But so, I mean, to see you kind of switching around, I mean, it allows, again, for that musical growth of the band.
We get to find new sounds all the time.
We also get to take the opportunity to have scalability with the band. We have 2-piece, 3-piece, 4-piece solo, Josh and your Huey.
I can go on back to a banjo if Ty ever needs me to. If Ty wants to run guitar, we can run guitar. We got places to go and different items to do it with, and that always feels great.
We try to work together, and this is something I really want to hit, is we try to work together with the venues wanting to book us. We look where we're respected and heard. And paid, of course, and we work with them to try to figure out what the best sound would be for that venue.
Yeah,
we try to make sure we're not too loud. Something that probably never is a negative term, but I feel like most of the time you go to a local show, it's way too loud, and we're string music, and we can be loud. But when we set up our own thing, we have our own setup. I want to make it my mission to ask whoever's in charge, hey, let us know if we're too loud, because we don't want to be too loud. We want to be entertainment. We don't want to be drowning people out.
And we want to be intimate when you need intimate.
We have you have different types of venues. You have the listening rooms, but you also have where you're the background, and you're the background entertainment, and you should be treated as such. And anyway, not to be on a rant, but...
I think
that's okay. I mean, it's good to kind of get the perspective of our musicians here in the state. I mean, because there are so many different people on so many different roads, or at least points on the musical road, that it's just like, I feel like to get this kind of information, to get this kind of feedback from other musicians, it helps us as other musicians grow and see, like, how can we continue to improve? What can we look towards? What can we do to sharpen ourselves, to find that next gig, to find what our value is for the next gig? Because I think that's what I hear a lot from musicians post-pandemic. Now, I did not get involved into the scene until things started getting lifted in the podcast has only been going for a few years now. So I'm not as ingrained in the Indianapolis music scene as some other people are. But to get that information is not only good for me, but I mean,
it's good for the next time you're at the bar.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, I mean, I guess, you make a big deal, at least in my experience, and this is totally good, and I want your feedback on this. How do you find your value as a musician?
There's a lot of that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
So first of all, we don't take non-paid opportunities. That's the first boundary that we set. You'd be amazed at how many times I get poached about something, and I ask what compensation is, and they say tips, and I say no thanks. Appreciate it, but no thanks.
Yeah. So
that's the first step, setting a boundary. If you set a boundary, you're going to look much more professional. I also do this for I don't know if supplemental income is the correct way to say it, but I'm in massive debt, and it needs to be worth my while to perform. Otherwise, I'll go drive my Uber, because if I make more, anyway. That's my point.
Sense.
And then my other thing that I wanted to say on this whole theme is that something I'm learning, and I've learned a couple years ago, is that the negative part is that competition happens at the lowest tiers, and at the top tier, collaboration happens. When you start collaborating with people, and you start realizing that this facade that the rising tide raises the ships, and that everybody should work collectively, that's when we've proven more successful. And taking that attitude the last couple of years has propelled us even further.
Could I go back on that question?
Oh, absolutely,
well?
yeah. Because I mean, you definitely have like all sorts of perspective.
I do, but it's mostly just the fact that like there's plenty of people I know who find their value in their music. They reinforce their own feelings with their music, right? They're able to like look at their music and then somehow look back at themselves and say, this is worth it. This is, I'm doing the right thing. But like nobody is. There's not a right thing to do.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to do something. You might as well make it something you love. So like if you can say that at the end of the night you had fun, I think that's how you can prove to yourself your own value. You know what I mean? Like your value is never going to be dependent on just money or just being good or being the best or any of that stuff. Because the likelihood that any of the three of us is going to be the best of anything is low. But we could be the best Friday night that somebody has in a really long time. And I want to see that more than I want to see us popular.
That goes back to that theme. So like sometimes they get way too business oriented, and a couple months ago Sam and Ty were like, Josh, like you can chill out. Like if you want a beer during band practice, have a beer. Chill out, dude. You can have some salami. We always joke, you can have cats can have salami, right, Ty? So
for a treat.
Yeah, for a treat. Yeah. Some cats, the cats can have a little salami. Josh, chill out. I get stressed in my life. I got a lot of external things going on, and or internal and external things going on, and I just need to remind myself, why do we do this? Well, first and foremost is to be happy and to have fun, and then the money is nice as well, and it starts to kind of come in more once you establish.
The more fun you can share.
Well, yeah, part of that's the business part of why I do it too. So
when you're looking out for other people, I mean, because I understand that. I mean, when you have, it's a little different when you're solo, but when you have a band. I mean, those are essentially people that you're looking after.
They're employees. They're employees. People want to say it's not a business. It is a business.
No, it's absolutely.
And they are employees. We are all employees of the band. The band is the entity.
And they deserve to be paid.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, the closer we can get them to family instead, not to be like weird and Sam Walton about it.
No, sure.
Like,
yeah.
The closer we can realize that their happiness depends on our happiness and our happiness depends on their happiness, the quicker we can get to that point and work together as a team, the easier it is. So like sometimes that requires more mediation and things like that. When you get enough people together, everybody's got opinions and ideas and we all want to do the thing, but at the same time we got to make sure that we leave room for everybody, and we've been doing that real hard.
And that's
we've
more
been
of
making time for that.
That's more of a personal issue for myself of being so stubborn. So
we're all stubborn, Josh.
I feel like I'm the most in the band. I can say that.
And sometimes we need that to keep us back from making rash decisions.
Ty's agreeing with me that I'm the most stubborn. So.
I think it just comes with the name Josh, because I feel like I get a lot of that too.
Ty's afraid he's going to be the most stubborn. He's worried. He's
the guy's wearing a mountain hippie hat. There's nothing that's stubborn about him.
But let me interject a little something. Like because I'm obviously a little bit older than Sam and Josh, quite a bit older actually.
Sure.
And I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to mess around with nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't want drama, and I don't want to put in a bunch of hours and pay a bunch of dues and do a bunch of free gigs for whatever reason. And so for me, like Josh kind of squared me up a little bit on a couple of things with his insistence that we take paid gigs. We do this for a lot of work, and it cost us a lot of money in equipment and
gas
and our time, and not to mention strings and practice and lessons and everything that you've done in your life to be able to play music and write music. All the and when I started playing with him, I was like, yeah, whatever. I just like to play. I'm having fun, and it was. But then it kind of also becomes work, and that's where Josh kind of squared me up. Is like we
don't work for free.
We don't work for free. That's it. We're doing this. There's nothing wrong with making money, and so allowing me to recollect on this and put it in perspective of my life. I'm in my 50s. I've raised 2 kids. They're grown. I have a career. I've had a long career. I'm pretty okay with my station in life. And I don't like to leave my house much. I'm kind of a homebody, And if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go out and do the work and put the time in and travel and block off parts of my calendar, then I want it to be worthwhile.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of those conversations together.
And finding Josh and these, he puts work into it. He puts a lot of work into managing and logistics and booking and he takes it really seriously. And that gives me the warm fuzzies because it's not nonsense.
It's transparency is what it is, which musicians to venues don't have very good transparency, especially with local or smaller gigs. And even larger gigs, there's not transparency, and that's one of my biggest issues with the industry. When I ask musicians about places and what they pay, they're like, I don't even know. I'm like, how would you not know what you get paid at a place you're performing at? That would drive me nuts. I would never go somewhere not knowing. And sometimes I have people recently say, like, we'll book a time. Well, like, I need to chat with you what you're paying me, because I'm not going to go blind into something. It's just not worth my time.
Yeah. No,
it's give and take too, though, right? But so Josh's attitude and sort of our mission statement, or our boilerplate, right?
Sure,
when HR hands you the folder, the first thing is like, right? That wouldn't work for me if we were going to gigs and everybody getting plastered and being late and doing this childish musician stuff, like this rock star act, right? This illusion that you're the self-importance of a musician, right? But when we show up to gig, we show up on time. We're professional. We get set up. We sound good. We have reasonable expectations of our own performances and how tight they are. We put a good product out there every time we go play.
Yeah.
We put good music out and we're professional about it. And so that's the reason it works. For me as well, is because we're not just being prima donnas. Not just Josh going, well, we're playing a bunch of amateur music and we're showing up late and we're demanding that pay me or whatever. It's like, no, you're hiring a professional band to perform a professional performance, and we should be compensated for that.
Yeah. Everything you guys are saying, it makes 100% sense.
do real good, sometimes feel misunderstood.
I want to shift the tenor of the conversation, though, just real quickly. Because you guys can be anywhere from a solo entity to a four-piece, what is collaboration like for you guys when it comes to the music? I mean, I get the sense that Josh is kind of like the take charge, like here's how we approach things, but what does that look like in terms of collaboration and, when you know that the band can kind of morph at any time depending on the venue itself or the availability of the band members?
Honestly, a lot of the stuff we do is we take a look at what we already have, which is we have 3 people that bring a lot of rhythms, resources, and ideas, music lineages, interests to the room. So then when we find a place that's like, we need things more intimate. Well, of course, we can talk to Josh about some more intimate or quiet songs. I've got some intimate or quiet songs. You can kind of work with the people you already have as long as you get yourself out of the way between you and that person, right? Allow that person to take charge and control of what's going on.
Part of that is making sure your ego's on planet Earth.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Which was hard for me at the beginning because I was a very oddball guy and I didn't want to do anything right. And then I started playing with Josh and I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to count. And from then it's gotten harder, but it's always felt worth it every time that I step back, look at Josh's rhythm or Ty's rhythm, and I try to put myself as a filter on their art, right? The art is already there. I just need to add my blemish, my finish, my whatever I want to call it that makes it slightly more interesting, helps out, and doesn't draw away from the sound. So once you start using each person as an equivalent, as an equal in your part, and you get to work with that, you can find all the sound you need. You'd be amazed how many sounds can come out of one guy, nonetheless, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc.
Well, I'm sure that's made you a better musician when it comes to the work that you do in Malingo, to the stuff that you do on as a solo artist with Well Driller's Assistant.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, now you have to count, but
It's This Burning Ghost now. We did a name change.
Don't worry.
No,
I've been running
the
Well Driller's
podcast
Assistant.
people need to know it's this burning
Ghost. I made that
Not a
mistake one time
Not a
when you were
mistake.
on the when you happened to pop up.
It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes
That's-
happen to each and every one.
And
That's
also,
true. That's
that's
true, but-
still my meme account, so like, you're not wrong, and I'm a big fan. But yeah, no, we've done nothing but learn from each other since we got here, and each one of us, you could go in and find a sound that was probably Ty's or mine and Josh's, and vice versa. There's a lot of sounds that I use that I would have never understood without Josh's help or Ty's help.
Sure.
And it helps every day to continue widening our spectrum of people that are in our group every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get a little bit into the solo stuff a bit. Josh, tell me about, what separates a Josh Jr. Huey song from a Limestone Nomad song?
It's the hardest question.
The easiest way to answer that is instrumentation.
Okay.
So I've been working on my original game. I have I think like 7 or 8 tracks out online. I'm releasing a new cover tomorrow, written by Paul Hoffman of Green Sky Bluegrass. But so something I learned, again, this is referencing back to one of my buddies, Caleb from 53 Thieves, which if you've never heard of 53 Thieves, they have hundreds of millions of streams. That's not an exaggeration. At least tens of millions of streams.
Wow.
And so he's writing this book. So this guy sends me this book. I read it at like 2 a.m. after a wedding.
And texts me about it.
Oh yeah, no, listen. Yeah. Sorry. So it said, always have your solo project and always have your band. And because I talked to Sam before I read that book, Sam and I had that conversation. I said, Sam, I feel like I want to go faster than the band. And Sam says, well, then you go do your solo stuff. And
Go
so
faster.
I started recording more with my buddy Scott, and now I record with Sam more often. But I have enough material to come out with a second album that's all original. It's going to be Josh on guitar and vocals, and it's going to be done authentically, where it's going to sound exactly how you would hear me perform it live.
Awesome.
There's not going to be dubbing. It's just going to be one track, like we did in my living room with Old Barns. That's coming out tomorrow. I did that in one take. But I always have that facade, or I don't know if that's the right word, but I always have the project of the solo and the songwriting. I actually wrote a song yesterday that I want to record. But like my point is that I have my second album, which is my more new originals that are Josh Jr. Huey, and then the band Limestone is working on our first album, which is going to be the things that we've kind of played today. Some of those,
Yeah.
I think all of those actually. That's going to be a short EP. So my point being is that if you want to move faster than your band, work on your solo stuff, because everything will bring everything up. This is back on that where we were talking about the rising tide raising the ships and the collaboration. Everything brings everything up. If you look at Limestone on Spotify, the first band that is recommended after Limestone is Josh Jr. Huey. If you look at Josh Jr. Huey, fans also listen to Limestone Nomad. Everything's bringing everything up, including Malingo and Sam's band.
Yeah.
So.
And also, every time we have personal material that we've studied and practiced and just have ready to go, like, look at a lot of Josh's stuff. Back in the day, I used to really like try to fall into the rhythm, almost mimicry with Josh, and I realized very quickly that I was making everything muddy, and it did take a lot of talking from these two to make sure I realized that things were getting muddier. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? And I realized that, well, I was trying to play a song by myself with 3 dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's really a lot of work you can do in the background as far as like atmospheric effect and different ways to add transitions and reinforce beats or special melodies or rhythms, like a lot of the work we do in Dead covers. I'll be there just chopping the big hits. Josh holds up this whole rhythm. It's a lot easier if you work on learning the things that are necessary to make the song good instead of learning the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah.
One guy needs to do that.
Yes.
Because somebody needs to follow some direction.
Someone needs to be your conductor in the music.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, give me a little bit of background on the songs that you perform for today's show. They are Limestone songs, and like you said, they'll be on an upcoming EP eventually.
Yep.
But what went into those songs? What's going into the recording of those songs, and what were the influences for some of those songs?
Dude, we'll just go. Well, since they're all my songs, I guess I'm going to be talking for a minute.
It's all you, man.
So, all right. So, New Gal was written. Actually, New Gal was written like 10 years ago. But it got resurfaced recently. New Gal's about my dating experiences. I got divorced a few years ago. Met a wonderful partner that I'm with. Who we just purchased a home together. But New Gal was written about my struggles in the dating world, because the dating world has changed a lot. I was in a relationship for 8 years, and it was wild to get myself back out there. And I kind of was like, this song's pretty cool about that. It's about kind of not knowing where you're at when you're dating somebody. And so that's New Gal. I don't know if you had any more questions.
No.
about that, or
I
should
just
move to
love
the next one?
hearing the stories. I feel like people like to hear the stories behind the songs to a certain degree.
So Routine Burns, I wrote after I drank 2 IPAs after work at Mother Bear's Pizza on campus. we used to be able to get $1 beers. After work, you're allowed $1 shift beers. So I chugged 2 beers, and then I wrote that song on my phone. It's about the 9 to 5, about the hustle and bustle that people do, and the fact that we should all take time to have, change is inevitable in the world, and sometimes being on routine just really kills me. I do work full time throughout the week at my software job, but it's just, man, I couldn't do a factory job. I couldn't do something very routine, and that's what that song's written about. So that's the second song. And then the third song was Take Caution Up Ahead. So Take Caution Up Ahead I wrote, I think like 8 years ago as well. And basically Take Caution is a hybrid of 2 things. The first being a dream I had about wrecking a car. And the second one is back when I used to go to more music festivals. My personality is to try to help people a lot, and it was kind of written about some particular people in the festival scene who seem to show up to these events with nothing, and it's just kind of like the Take Caution is just like, look out for yourself. Like, you can't go to a music festival and just consume drugs the whole time and have no food and have no water and look for people and trade your drugs for things. Like, it's just, I'm a lookout person. Like, I want to make sure, like, I'm like, the dad of the group. I guess I still was the dad of the group before my daughter was born. And it's just one of those things where I'm just looking out for people in the festival scene. I'm usually more go to bed at 10 or 11, wake up at 7 in the morning, make coffee. And I was like that back in the day before I had my kid at festivals. I'd be like the first one waking up, making coffee, making sure everybody's all right, taking care. Someone needs a jacket. This is coming from being in Boy Scouts for a while. I was never an Eagle Scout, but like my dad taught me a lot of things that I use today for camping and stuff when I go to festivals.
Well, that manager aspect of you really, really like comes out, in these situations, and really kind of presents itself in Take Care. That's pretty cool of you, man. I mean, that's sometimes I feel like that's something that's overlooked, and
it's easy to walk past that kind of stuff and not care.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, from a 46-year-old father of 5, I appreciate that aspect that someone is like that out there, like is just kind of like
makes. You
There's
feel
no
better
way
about
you're
your kids.
46.
I am 46.
There's no. I literally thought you were like 35. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
And that's not
that.
blowing smoke because we're in the podcast.
No.
Yourself,
I
but
appreciate that. That's
you look young.
I thank you very much. When I was in my teens, I remember. So I worked at Boston Market. When it was still around, and I was back, in the chicken cutting station, and a customer comes in late at night, and I don't know how we got on this conversation. I was 18 at the time. I don't know how we got on this conversation, but she chimes in, I thought you were 36. So the fact that you said I'm younger than what that one woman said, but that wasn't the first time I'd received a comment like that.
Yeah.
That someone thought I was in my 30s when I was in my teens. So thank you.
You must be doing something good.
I
for
guess
yourself.
so.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Just have one of them 30-year-old faces for the rest of your
Well,
life.
I hope so, because
if you get lucky.
I seriously like if someone would be like, "Here's you'll win $500." If you answer this right, is Josh Lipsy over 40? No,
no, you lost.
give me my 500.
No, I appreciate that. I really do. And for those of you watching the show, or even listening to the show, I hope that you're doing both. But that last song will be a Patreon exclusive. So check out Voices of Indy on Patreon, patreon.com/Voices of Indy. Quick plug there. As well as, since I'm in the plugging stage, let's go ahead and plug the various playlists that we have for Voices of Indy. Volumes 1 through 3, we have the artists featured from each season on a separate playlist, so that it correlates with that particular season. And then also the monthly playlist, the monthly release playlist, which Limestone and Josh Jr., who it sounds like, will have 2 songs on the June playlist, which is awesome. Malingo has been, you guys have been pumping stuff out all year.
My whole head's on fire.
I believe it. I believe
2
it.
weeks is a heavy schedule.
You need to duck your head in an ice bath, man. Those are fantastic. Cold showers.
I need
And you've been singing on some of those tracks.
I have been. I'm normally terrified to sing. It's probably my best instrument because, as you guys all know, I am definitely more of a songwriter / storyteller versus a musician, because I feel like that.
He's both. He's being humble.
I do both.
He's
now.
being humble.
I do both. But back when I started this, I didn't know what chords were. I just knew what sounds I wanted and went from there.
Yeah.
Right. And you can
Paul
still do
McCartney
that.
doesn't know theory.
Exactly.
So-
There's all kinds of people that do, and you don't have to have it because you've turned on the radio. You know what music sounds like.
Exactly. Exactly. You do. So, guys, we've come to the end of the show. What kind of parting advice would you have for people who are either just getting into the game or are wanting to get into that collaborative headspace that you were talking about earlier, Josh, about, kind of the rising tide lifting all boats?
I would say, obviously keep your ego on planet Earth, but at the same regard, know your worth and know that just because you're starting out and it's something you enjoy, don't hold yourself to a degree where you think that you're not good enough, or don't, like, just be positive and take what you can take, but at the same time know your worth and stand your ground and stand up for yourself. I think musicians don't stand up for themselves enough, and there isn't enough transparency in their compensation. Don't be afraid to ask for compensation. Don't be afraid to have that conversation, because that should happen every time you get booked somewhere before you actually confirm and get booked. So that's my advice.
That's some good advice. Sam?
I would say don't worry so much about sounding like your favorite guy.
There you go.
Do what comes out of you naturally and become your new favorite guy.
I like that. Ty, you've been in the game a long time.
Well, yeah. My first word of advice for any musician is practice.
Yep.
Get good. Practice. Put the work in. Don't sell yourself short. Don't think you're great. Don't think your music's a game changer. There's tons of people that play great music, and there's always somebody way better than you're ever going to, like, don't play that. Just practice, and then go play with people. Go get out in the world and
Network.
You know,
Yeah.
Network, and also, like, I made a mistake. One of the mistakes I've made in life is I played guitar for so long and decades, and it became so important to me to be perfect and cutting edge and right on the vanguard of this technique, and I just woodshedded and that when I did come out in the world to start playing, nobody could play with me. It was too fast or too complex or too when I started learning the banjo and I was sort of green to it, I made it a point to go out in the world with it.
Yeah.
That I'm not just going to woodshed for a decade and make sure that I was a virtuoso on the banjo before I go out and play.
Yeah.
And it's been a real awakening experience for me to be out and learning where your sound fits in with other people's sounds. Learning how get in where you fit in, and how you can fill a space that's empty, or how you can harmonize or whatever. It's just getting out and jamming, a jam around a campfire, an open mic. Just collaborate with as many people as you can as you're getting your sea legs with it, and it's just going to pay off big time.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
All that.
Go to jams.
Go to open mics. They're free. Like, you can get a watt. I mean, get like you don't have to get beer to play in an open mic. You can get a soda.
Up.
You can get a Sprite or a soda or whatever, and show up and play out as much as you can and learn. And another thing is, I would say try to be a sponge and listen to people, and don't just compare yourself to other people. Listen and collaborate, and I think that would prove to more success down the road for somebody.
That's great, guys. This has been such a wonderful experience to sit down with you guys. One, to watch you perform, but to also just kind of sit down, get to know you better, get to kind of really dive deep into who you guys are as individuals. We might not have spent as much time on the music per se, but I think the lessons that we can get out of these conversations are just incredible. Guys, check out Limestone Nomad. They are incredible. Josh Jr. Huey, his solo stuff is also incredible. Check out Sam McGuire. This Burning Ghost. Check out This Burning Ghost, Malingo, and Limestone Nomad. All the stuff that Sam's in. And Ty, man, I want to hear you on guitar, dude. I mean,
someday. We're still kind of in the nascent, beginning period of all of our collaborations. We haven't really had time to explore whole, different combos and things and stuff. The future's going to be really interesting with this group of guys. We got good stuff coming.
Rising stars. That's all I can say. And it's quality. I'm going to say this. This may go over the heads of many of you youngins watching this show. But my son, who is 17, he knows my favorite band is REM. And when he was hearing these guys play, he said, "I kind of sound like REM." And to me, that is such a huge compliment. And I thought that was fantastic. because I love that. I do. I love that band. I love everything that they do. And talk about guys who knew how to collaborate with each other, especially during that particular period with Out of Time when they were all switching up instruments. From Peter Buck going on to the mandolin to Bill Berry, their drummer, playing bass, to Mike Mills playing pretty much anything and everything. It's just it's awesome. So I think the sky's the limit for you guys. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Guys, keep on watching Voices of Indy. We got more stuff coming up here in the weeks ahead. A lot of stuff is happening. So tune in for more. That's going to be coming up we got Phoebe Godfrey coming up, Joel Gragg. The door's blocking the way, so I can't see who the other Naptown Hepcats. That's going to be interesting. So lots of stuff coming up. And thank you guys again for being on the show. And we'll see you guys again next week. So long.
It's the same day in and out. We're all clocking in and out. Repetition and patterns are what I see. Routine's what you crave. Go ahead and be that way. And I'm telling you, honey, that life just ain't for me. Change is what I desire. This routine just burns with this fire. Change is what I wanna see. You ain't getting any routine out of me. Don't need to see that. Running their routines all around. Rather joke, play the clown. I'm telling you, honey, change is where it's at. Change is what I desire. Routine, it just burns like this fire. Change is what I wanna see. You ain't getting any routine out of me. Nothing new. Why must we work all the time? See, if it be up to me, I'd rather enjoy this day, you see. Not be working like all the other guys. Change is what I desire. This routine, it just burns like this fire.